That was
Oh, you're now up on top of a copy of the board game Mousetrap.
nice. I just bought a tripod. I used to put my camera on a box of macaroni.
Sweet.
I had to buy a tripod because I really wanted to eat that macaroni. Hello and welcome to I Make Art, Hire Me, the podcast where we discuss everything that you can't find in a textbook. I am your host, Nick Mabry, a 3D animator. I'm going to just leave it at that. We are joined once again with our co-host, Wilco Plur, and special guest, Rob Corbett.
I do feel special.
That's good.
Huzzah!
If I had the time to post-production a party hat onto you, I would. But I don't. So
I could have brought a party hat, but you didn't ask for one.
This is really disappointing to me. Today, we are going to be discussing goals and how you can set goals, why you need to set goals, or, well, not need, but you definitely should. Last week, we discussed failure, and part of that, we discussed how to jump back from that, which kind of broke down a little bit of setting a goal in order for you to break things down into steps. So I'm hoping that we can delve much deeper into that this week. I'm going to throw it over to Rob Corbett. Rob, why don't you tell people who you are and what you do?
Oh, I do a lot of things. Welcome to being a freelancer in Canada. I teach a lot. I teach acting and animation. I teach animation history and film art at a number of schools. I also write, and I do some motivational speaking and help people sort out where they want to get to and how they can do that.
This is perfect.
That's it in a nutshell. It's a big nutshell.
And you're doing Rob Talks now.
I am doing Rob Talks.
Which is blogs, videos, and actual talks. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's something that I was actually a former graduate. Some of my best inspiration comes out of teaching my students and former grads. And a former grad suggested it, and I'd been toying with the idea for a few months, and I launched in and decided that I had to stop worrying about making it perfect and just get her done. And so I'm about 2.5 months in, and I've got about 2,000 hits. And I don't know if that's good, but it's feeling good, and I'm getting some good feedback. And I don't know. There you go.
I just noticed the other day, I was like, I've had 70 views on a video, and then I threw myself a tiny party.
Woohoo!
In my own head. So,
but like 30 of them are me. Just a heads up. So
that's even better.
That's dedication.
That's 30 times better.
Fan.
Oh, I watch all of these just because I'm slowly becoming part of them for some reason. So
you're being introduced as a co-host, man.
Yeah,
you are.
I did it.
You did a 10-minute walk and 2-minute run to get here.
Yeah.
You are Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
To give the story, Wilco logs. We add him into the Skype conversation, and then Rob's screen goes blank, and all he hears is of Wilco.
I didn't know what was going on between the two of you, but I'm all in favor as long as everybody's having a good time, and I don't need to watch it. Just saying.
That works for me. So let's discuss goals. How would you define a goal? Can we define a goal?
Oh my gosh, here I am coming in as the expert, and I've never actually thought about how to define a goal. A goal in its simplest form is what you're aiming for, right? Whether or not you're looking at a sports event or whether or not you've got a life goal, it's something you're aiming towards, right?
Is that why they call, like, in soccer, goals? Because you aim for them?
You aim for them. It's something to aim for.
Wow. Yeah, I just had the realization that I tweeted. So, do you guys remember the Blink-182 album from 1999 called Enema of the State?
I do believe so, yes.
No? Okay. I just realized it was a play on words for enemy of the state, and that blew my mind. And now I'm learning that goals means goals. We should move on. Let's not discuss how I don't understand anything.
You're the best host right now.
All good.
So when I tried to write out some notes about this, and the first thing that I wrote down was trying to move forward in life without goals is like trying to shoot a gun with no target. You'll probably end up bleeding in an alley. And I don't feel like that's a good description
I
of
think it's flawless. Flawless.
It's well, I'm not sure about the bleeding in the alley, but you'll probably end up in a couple of alleys. You may or may not be bleeding in them, right?
that. That's the line that I was trying to follow there. But I mean,
Yeah.
so if you don't have goals, you may be moving, but you will not be moving towards
Yeah.
anything.
And you may end up in some place that's really interesting. And I'm not a fan of, I'm not a 100% fan of making goals. I'm not sure everyone should, right? Some people are really actually very happy where they are. And that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And sometimes when you're a little not sure where you need to go, you need to just wander around and explore a little bit. But
This
there's
is true.
I'm suddenly remembering, I don't know why, it's my music theater background. There's a line in South Pacific where one of the characters says, "You've got to have a dream because if you never have a dream, you can't have a dream come true." Right?
Ooh.
Isn't that profound?
Yeah.
Oscar Hammerstein knew what he was talking about. Right? You can't achieve a goal if you don't have one. You can get cool stuff, you can find cool things, but you can't ever get that I aimed for this and I got it, right? My daughter is a very avid soccer player, and it's very interesting watching teams that are team oriented and working towards a goal, and teams that don't get it. Right? Doesn't matter how great all the passing is and how great all the footwork is. If the ball doesn't go into the goal, you don't win. Right? And all those things are important and they're valid, but if they don't lead towards getting the ball into the goal, then the other team wins.
Otherwise,
Right?
you're passing a ball back and forth.
Which is great fun if that's what
Yes.
you want to do.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, then that's your goal, then more power to you.
But it literally doesn't get you into the goal.
It doesn't get you into the goal. There you
Uh,
go.
so what are other things I wrote down? This is going great.
Are we
Uh,
just gonna have you with your paper again, just flopping the freaking notepad back and forth?
yeah. See, I wrote it down in Notepad this time,
You're
so
learning.
it's practically seamless.
It's
Uh,
all electronic.
oh yeah, we're going digital now, saving paper by using electricity. As
Sweet.
discussed last week, if you set a goal, you can break it down into small steps. Rob, as you were
Yes.
saying, it is you can achieve something by setting the goal. And you were
It's a
saying,
big chunk of it. Yeah.
yeah, and you were saying if you don't have a dream, what was that fantastic quote?
You've got to have a dream because if you just wait, got to have a dream. Oh my gosh, I can't. I just said it. Um,
If you don't have a dream, you
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 can't.
don't
can't
have a dream.
fulfill
How
it.
are you going to make a dream come true?
Yes,
Right? It's from South Pacific. I'd like to say that that was mine, but it's not. It's Oscar Hammerstein the second's in Sound of Music. Okay, my music theater nerd is coming out full steam.
that is completely fine. I would rebuttal that with a quote by Walt Disney that said, "If you can dream it, you can do it." Because
That's not a rebuttal. That's a support.
oh, great.
Rebuttal with
Did
support.
it?
I'm glad that we're collaborating. I believe that Walt Disney understood the power of knowing where you want to go.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so, in summary, I guess a goal is something that you aim at. If you want to get somewhere, then you could make a goal. Um,
Yeah,
it's also great for looking back. If you set a goal, then you can measure your life by it. You can see where you've come from.
right.
Yeah.
But one of the and there's I mean there's it's such a I think we're kind of I feel like we're kind of stalling here because it's such a big topic we don't know how to launch into it,
Yes.
right? Which is something you had actually brought up before we started recording. But you said something interesting about the issue of failing, right? And I didn't get a chance to see your last podcast, but for me, I don't know. This is something my dad used to teach me, right? One of his big things was the only person who ever really fails is the person who does nothing. Anything else is, you know what I mean? Like launching in a direction and not getting there isn't failing. Failing is sitting at home going, "Oh, I'm gonna, one day I'm gonna, you just wait and see. Oh, if only I had." That's failure, right? Launching out and not getting what you succeed at isn't failing, right? And the whole idea of, and you mentioned about breaking it down, right? There's no such, Henry Ford, used to say there's no such thing as a big problem, just a whole lot of little ones.
I like that.
Yeah, it's great. Then I've told people I teach a writing course at one of the schools I teach at, and I'm constantly telling people you can't write a play. You can't. You can do an outline, then you can write a scene, then you can create a character. No one animates an entire film ever. Anyone, even like someone like Don Hertzfeldt in these short little brilliant pieces, right? No one sits and animates that. You do one drawing, and then you do the next drawing, and then you do the next, right? Or you cut one keyframe, and then the next, and then the next. And we get this idea that the goals are too big, and they are, and you can't get them. No one can build a house, but we're all sitting in them, right? You lay a foundation, and then you lay a brick, and then you lay another brick. So the breaking down is vital to your goals.
So sorry, I don't know if you were having a pregnant pause or a pause.
I've never had a pregnant pause. My kids are adopted.
Fantastic. I
Snap.
enjoyed that. I wish I had a snare hit. So Rob, you were saying before we started, there's three areas where a lot of people get tripped up with goals.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I kind of came to this quite accidentally, and I'm a big fan of that as well. If you put yourself out there, stuff will come to you. I really deeply believe that. And about 6, 7 years ago, I was trying to figure out. I wanted to do more than the teaching. I wanted to push the envelope a little further, go somewhere else. I wasn't quite sure where, and wasn't sure what sort of field to do it in. I toyed with a few things and played with a couple of ideas. And then for some reason, and I didn't go looking for it, I started to become sort of a go-to guy. People would come to me, often people about to graduate or people who had just graduated, sort of confused about where they were going, right? And the whole issue of goals. And I've had a lot of that confusion in my life. I spent a lot of time wandering around in circles. And after speaking to a number of them, I found that most people who were confused about goals or weren't sure where they actually wanted to go to fell into one of three categories. Either they actually really did know and they were afraid to say it out loud or start moving in that direction for whatever reason. It was too big, it was too frightening, they didn't think they had the resources, whatever. There was a reason why they dismissed the real goal. The second one are people who really, really had no clue. They were sitting in the dark, not sure where they just had no direction at all. And the third, where I find a lot of creative people land, is people who have so many goals. They can't winnow it down. They want to do everything, and they know they can't. So they either run in 15 different directions or sit still and go, I don't know what to do. And neither one is productive. And most creative people with any sort of mileage under their belt have done both, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, right? Yeah. So that's sort of how I have found the breaking down works for me and for the people I work with.
So when it comes to goals, we have people who know what they need to do or have an idea of what they want to do, but they're scared of it. They're scared of failing. They're scared of putting themselves out there.
Or they're scared of succeeding, and then what?
Yes.
Setting the bar
we
too
discussed
high.
this on episode 3, I believe.
We did. Oh, I should look at episode 3.
You should look at all of
I should look at all of them.
Just add all those views.
Yeah.
This is why I love you, Nick.
In fact, you could see them all on iTunes. Wow. We're on iTunes now.
I'd have to join iTunes. That's so cool.
Yeah, I had to join iTunes, and the only reason I did it was to put up the podcast. Don't tell Steve Jobs.
So cool.
Yeah. But
I won't tell Steve Jobs.
Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate that. He's a very mean man. He's very, very cruel to me.
Sits on top of his mountain. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so number 2 was people who didn't know where they want to go.
Yeah, they really don't have a goal. There's no direction at all.
And the third is commonly creative types who have
not exclusively by any stretch. But then again, I think creativity is the gift to humanity. Like, we are all creative on some level. But when we tap into that, then we tend to get too much.
Well, you create new directions to go in, and then
yeah,
it's like a snake eating its own tail. It's
Yeah,
like,
if you're not coming up with 4 or 5 new ideas every day, I would question whether or not you're truly one of the great creative minds. Like that's the problem, right? For
there's
me,
so
that is
many people right now who just went like, how many ideas have I thought of today?
I had like half.
Half of an idea.
Yeah.
oh, go and get my
Then I
info. Edit that out. Edit that out in
no,
post. I
edit
was
that back in and then loop it back 3 times.
Just to
Half,
drive it
half,
home.
half.
Rob, I'm removing your party hat in post production.
oh
You're done.
you're just evil. You're just being mean now. Where's the off switch?
Stop, you bully.
An off switch here somewhere.
All right, so let's
Yes.
so if somebody's, let's say somebody thinks that they know what they want to do, they have an idea,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
scared to do it. How do they? I feel like they would have to define their goal better
Well,
first.
and sometimes they do. Sometimes they're incredibly clear. I mean, I remember sitting with a woman about 3, 4 years ago, and just she was so reluctant to even say it out loud, like just so. But when she did, it was absolutely clear. She spent hours turning this around and getting it clear. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. Like the clarity was one of the clearest visions I've ever seen. Right? She absolutely knew what she wanted to do. And then as soon as it was out of her mouth, went, "But that's ridiculous." And that was the problem,
That
right?
hurts.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and there was nothing else. There wasn't like a second and a third or 58th other creative thing she wanted to do. She wanted to do this. She was so magnificently clear on it, right? And I think one of the problems is that we keep hearing about the value of just diving in, right? Dive in, take a deep breath and dive in. But I mean, I was trained as a lifeguard in high school. Diving headfirst into unknown waters, it can really work, but when it doesn't, it's not a smart thing to do. It really isn't, right? So, I mean, what you really want to do is you either want to find someone who's been there, right? This is where, the value of mentorship comes through. If you can find someone who has trod that path, right, who's been there, who you can touch base with. And I found people are, I mean, if you approach them respectfully and, intelligently, people are so open to help, right? They really, really are. So if you can find someone who's been that route and just touch base with them, right? It's amazing what people are willing to share quite often. And if you can't find anyone like that, I'm actually a big fan of moving in slowly, testing the waters, experiment, get in gently. I mean, if we were talking about diving into water, I would talk about easing in slowly, right? Find out, explore, see where the rocks are. And in terms of creative things, people occasionally when I have people come to me and they say, I'm so excited, I've decided I want to be an artist, so I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go to art school. And I say, how about a night school class first? Because you might hate it. Do you know what I mean? You might not want to actually put the work in to make your art viable,
I heard a
right?
story today who of a person that I won't name, but he was in animation and he decided, "No, I'm going to go into engineering." And so he went and he did the work. He got all those high school credits that he didn't have, physics and math and stuff, and he went into the the most prestigious engineering program he could find. And a month in, he burned out, and he was like, "This isn't for me."
Yeah. And if you can go back, that's great. But sometimes you can't.
If
Do you know
you
what I mean?
if you dive
So
in too much,
if you dive in too much, sometimes the whole idea of burn your bridges, and there's a great deal of you hear a lot of people talking about that sort of thing, and there is some validity to once you make a firm decision to go. But I'm not a fan of making that in the dark. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a fan of making decisions in the dark. We hear great stories about those things happening, but we don't hear about we hear about the one guy who's Steve Jobs. We don't hear about the 999,000 who aren't, right? And I'm not knocking that. It works. It works magnificently sometimes, but when it doesn't work, it's really destructive,
you
right?
might end
So
up in an alley,
you might end up in an alley.
as
You
one might
might.
say.
With a gun for some reason.
I
Yeah,
don't know
this.
how it got there.
I don't know how
Just
it got.
comes with the
You're
alley.
scaring me. Um, Yeah, so I mean, ease in, take a night school class. I mean, I have a very good friend who coming out of high school, wanted to be a nurse. It's all she wanted to be. She wanted to be a nurse. It was all she wanted to be. Wanted to be a nurse. All right. Goes through, all the training. 3, 4, 5 years later, she gets into her first hospital and can't take it. Comes home crying every night and has to quit
Wow.
because she didn't. Seriously, she should have been a candy striper, like go volunteer at a hospital in her. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
She was so clear, and yet, 4 years later, with almost a nursing degree, she finds she can't actually do the work, right? So before you launch in full time, ease in. And if you're scared, right, if the thing that's stopping you is fear, then slowly easing in, gentle stretching, that's a really, really powerful way to do it, right? Because there's no such thing as a small change. There are small events, but there are no small changes, right? Um, uh, Silly example. About 6 months ago, I decided I needed to be healthier, right? So I started walking from my house to the subway, which is about 6 blocks, most of it uphill, right? And if I did that once, that would make no difference in my life, right? That's not a change, that's an event, right? But now I do that 4 to 5
Right.
times a week, and I should probably weigh myself. I'm sure I've lost weight. My pants are getting baggy on me. Do you
That's
know
a
what I
sure
mean?
sign.
You'd think, right? And I used to get to the subway exhausted, and now I power walk to the subway every morning,
How good
right?
does that feel, by the way?
Those first couple of times, pretty crappy, I got to admit.
But
But
now,
yeah, I mean, that's a pretty insignificant change, right?
but
But
you said it.
but it's the change, right? There's no insignificant changes. If I move in this direction, right, and my geography is totally off, but if I move in that direction, I hit England, right? I hit London. If I move that like 1 degree, like there, from there to there, right? I hit Northern Africa. You know what I mean? A small change over time is not an insignificant thing.
Hmm.
Don't catch me on the geography on that, but
It's
do you know what I
correct.
mean?
I
So
googled.
small changes. So people go, like people who want to quit their job and become writers, right? And I've run into a few of those. It's like I'd have more time to write if I didn't have this job and if I moved away. And it's like, you know what? If you can't write on the subway on the way into work, you're probably not a writer. Do you know what I mean?
So part of it is finding out whether or not this goal that people have, if they're serious about it.
Yeah,
And you're saying a good way to do that is to not necessarily jump in, get into the experience, but like maybe dip a toe in.
yeah. See if that's something you actually want to do, right? We get this idea about the creative life, and much of it is true, right? It is wonderful to at the end of the day look at something and go, I made that. I made that, and it's not perfect, but I made that, and that's awesome. That's an awesome feeling. But the business work of creating a professional art life, that's not for everyone. And there are many great artists who it's not for. And before you quit your day job and leave your unsupportive better half and empty your bank account, just there are ways to explore gently,
But then, would you say that some people might get stuck in the gentle part, knowing that they can do it?
right?
Does that fear come back?
But there's always a progress process, right? I know professionals who do that, right? People who get comfortable at animation studios when they know they should be doing something else. People who get comfortable, right?
Okay.
So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if someone's got one of my best friends that I went to school with, right, drama school, one of the best voices I have ever, ever, ever known, right, launches in professionally. After a couple of years, realizes he doesn't want it that badly. Guy named James, right? Finds himself doing a temp job at some office and loves it. Absolutely loves it. Becomes the king of community theater. And now, 30 years later, is going back professionally and is actually getting some real success. So, any decision you make isn't for life. That doesn't exist, right? And you can do both. And I know many, many really good, talented people who paint, draw, sculpt, act, sing on the side. quite happily. And if that makes you happy, then you win. Do you know what I
'Cause
mean?
that's the goal.
It's
Yes.
the end goal.
It is the end goal. And if and this is something that I occasionally get a chance to talk to graduates of art school, right? They feel like if they, I've got these 2 years, I've got these 3 years, I've got these 4 years of very expensive, hardcore education. What am I not using it for? But I don't think an education in the art is ever wasted, ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that feeds into your life in really brilliant ways, even if you get into a business that isn't, or a job that isn't technically creative. That expanse of creativity and that self-knowledge you're going to bring with it makes your life richer.
I had to change the title of the podcast now from I Make Art Hire Me to I Make Art. And that's fine.
And you know what? That is fine. That is fine.
I make art. No pressure.
It's all good.
So that was very well said. Thank you. Um,
Am I tweetable? I'm realizing I need to get on Twitter and I don't really know how to do that. Am I?
uh, I just make usually potty jokes, and then I guess you hashtag some words in front of it.
Yeah, like potty humor. Or
Yeah,
sorry,
hashtag potty
hashtag potty
humor,
humor.
and then you win Twitter, and it's that simple.
There you go.
Also, I may or may not understand Twitter.
There you go.
But
I
you
don't
can
think
follow me
any of
at
us
Nick
here do.
Mabry.
Oh god.
So
Yes.
the second person.
Yes.
The second person doesn't know what they want to do. And I feel like this is a good place to discuss how important it is to not have a goal and to just wander and see what you can find. Am I correct in that? Am I wrong?
Well, yeah. Well, it's one of two things, right? And there's all kinds of gray areas in between.
Wilco, did you put
But
up your hand?
A little bit, because
You, I'm
when
sorry.
he mentioned like don't jump into anything, I jumped into this school like no anything. Like at one point, I was working for my parents on the farm, and they were just like, "Look, you got two options: school or job." I'm like, "School, okay, fine. Let's see what's around." And just one person mentioned the program. I'm like, "Done. I'm going in that program," and I don't regret it.
It's
no,
worked
and
out well for
sometimes
you.
it works. This is the thing, right? If you're diving off a cliff into water, chances are you will be fine. There's a very good chance, it's assuming you can swim, that
I was just
that
about to
you'll be.
say that too.
Do you know what I mean? That you will be. There's a very good chance you will be fine. I'm just suggesting that when you're not, it's a big problem. You know what I mean?
There
So
are
And
you're the
rocks
guy
sometimes,
out
watching
there.
everybody jump into the water with potential rocks, and you're like, there's a staircase here. We could go, like, look and see if there's rocks. And they're like, nah, son, I'm jumping off this cliff.
yeah, I mean, and I get a little. I'll be the fifth person off. It's like he made it, she made it, they're okay. Off we go. Do you know what I mean?
That's the real winner in this.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think the real winner is the person who goes first sometimes, but they're just taking a huge risk,
Fair
and you
enough.
got to know that.
So
And
somebody,
I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying do it knowing what could happen. You
let's
know?
talk about the guy who can't find the cliff.
Yeah. Oh,
He got lost.
the guy
Yeah.
who can't find the cliff, who just has no, like, really doesn't have a goal. Um, I think often, I think what often happens is our culture and a society says you have to be. But I think quite often we don't have to be. Quite often we're fine. But we're trying to live up to this societal, cultural, pseudo norm that doesn't actually exist, right? About 2 years ago, I decided I was going to get fit. I was going to do it, right? I joined a gym. I got a diet plan all worked out. I went to the gym that once. I stuck on my diet till it was dessert, right? But it was dessert, right? You got to do that. Um, then went on it again. And I remember at one point just like really getting down on myself about, fitness and, and I wanted blah, 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 blah. And I should have this sort of lifestyle and I should do that sort of exercise. And at one point I was really, really down on myself. And this little drill sergeant inside my brain goes, "You don't want it bad enough." I thought, no, I don't. I don't actually want it badly enough. I don't want it badly enough to put all that time and all that effort and all that energy into. I don't want it badly enough. And interestingly enough, my fitness program has gently and slowly and easily increased. I'm down about 40 pounds from there, and my fitness level is higher, and I don't want it badly enough. I'm just so I think quite often people who are feeling unmotivated or unfocused need to take a deep breath and ask themselves if maybe they're just happy. Like, how about that? How about you're actually content with where you are? Maybe it's good.
Can, can I
Someone
actually
else has
add on
said,
that for a minute?
hmm,
Um, the one thing that I've really noticed today, and I've talked to a friend about, like we live in a world where we're very task oriented. Like
yeah,
you do this, you get it done, and you don't have time to like enjoy the ending. It's like, no, you're done something, move on to the next thing. You don't get to enjoy that moment. And that's basically where I think you're going with that. Like once you're done, just bask in it for a moment. Just be like, I did this. That's good. I'm happy that I did this. Whereas like
yeah.
you're not allowed to do that for some reason. It's just like, no, you're done that. Get move on to the next project, move on to your next goal, move on to your next anything.
And if there's no celebrating, if there's no enjoying, what are we doing it for? Like
Exactly.
seriously, what are we doing it for? If we don't get any joy out of the completion or even celebration out of the movement forward, then seriously, then what are we waiting up for retirement? Like you guys are in your 20s. Seriously, right? Are you waiting for your retirement to enjoy your life? I
Yeah,
got
that's how it
I'm 50.
works.
I'm 50. Let me give you some advice about being 20, right? Enjoy it,
Oh, definitely.
you know?
This is
And
making
if
me reconsider my life right now.
oh golly, I hope that's a good thing.
Oh, that's why I'm in this program. Like legitimately, I mean, it was like a jump in, but it was also like I was just in like this moment where it's just like wake up at, like 8, go to parents' place, work on the farm, move stuff, do this. You're done at 5. You go home, you play video games. It's just like I need to I need to do something. I feel like I'm just kind of stuck. And now I'm
And
moving and learning and doing
yeah,
fun
and this
things.
is awesome for you, but I'm going to suggest that if you're feeling that way and you don't feel you need to, then maybe you're okay. Do you know what I mean?
There's a
Maybe a
lot of
night.
anxiety where it's
Yeah,
like society wants me to do this, but if you're happy, you
then
just
be happy.
you just cheat coded your way past the rat race.
Exactly.
You have the
Things are
Konami
good.
code to
I was about to say
happiness.
left, right, left, right, up, down, up, down.
Yes.
Like I'm not, yeah, and I'm a firm believer in goals, and I'm a firm believer in movement, but I'm also a firm believer that not everyone should be upwardly climbing to the great. Not everyone wants to do that, right? One of my best friends and one of my happiest friends is a guy who works. He's a compliance officer for one of the big banks. That job would kill me, and he doesn't like it, but it provides him a great income. He's got a place in Palm Springs. He's got a pool in his backyard. He's happy, right? And he goes to work and he does his job. He doesn't dislike it. He's good at it, but it's not his dream job. It's not what he studied. But he's ridiculously happy on those levels. It's like, I don't think he should have a goal. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he should sit down and figure out where he wants to be. I think he is where he wants to be. And that's awesome. That's so great.
Well, his
It's
So
true.
goal is basically happiness at that point, and he's achieving it.
yeah. So, and he every once in a while, people in his life, because he has creative people around him, will say, you know what, but you could be. And he goes, I don't want to be. And and I used to be one of those people. It's like, but you could. And he sort of smiled and nodded and went, yeah, but I don't want to. This is good.
I just want
And
to say that you made your mental drill sergeant probably very embarrassed when it was like you need to do this and you're like, nah, man, I'm good.
ah, I don't need it bad.
I
When I
felt sympathy for your drill sergeant.
Well, there you go, right? And I mean, especially around the issue of fitness, right? And there are people who love that, and I'm not knocking it, right? I'm not knocking that intense push towards an amazing body and incredible health. But I've got good energy and I've got good vitality and I've got good health. And would I love to be, would I love to see my abs without needing an ultrasound to do it? Yeah, that'd be nice. That would be nice. But when I weigh what it would take to do that, I intelligently go, I don't want it badly enough.
You
I
just
don't.
figured out what Twitter is, by the way.
Oh, what?
it would be tweeting, "Do do I want an ultrasound to see my abs?" and then hashtag abs.
Hashtag
Oh,
abs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ultrasound
that's how
abs.
Twitter works. You pretty much
okay.
just did it.
There you go. I need to go type that somewhere. I don't know. I'll get my phone out later and
This is
hashtag
also a good example because you have to interrupt whatever is happening to tweet about what just happened.
Yeah.
because we can't just enjoy the moment for what it is.
Correct. You have to tweet it.
Okay, I must tweet and take a picture of my dinner. Could anyone explain that to me?
I thought that was
It's
Instagram.
silly. It's both, in my opinion.
Is
But
it?
it's. Have you ever seen? I can't remember what the heck it is. I think it's a show, and this girl walks past this guy, and he's like, "Oh, hey!" And she goes, "Oh my God, hey!" And instantly grabs her phone and starts like texting. He's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just tweeting that I saw you on the street," and then she just leaves. That's it. Like, like I've done the thing I need to do for like this interaction. It was like, oh, I hope technology never reaches that point.
Rob has opened Pandora's box of knowledge
Crazy.
about the internet.
It's
There we go.
everywhere now.
I'm so scared.
Uh,
I wish I had my glasses to mimic, but I left them because I
you
they're
jealous?
they're in my backpack and I had to run.
I
So
never leave home without them because I wouldn't
I,
know where to find my door.
yes, I would be walking into the wall. It's so bad.
So,
All right, so we're
third person,
three.
the final countdown. Creative types. Too many
Yes,
goals. Left,
too
right,
many
center,
goals.
up, down, a new direction that they have just created.
Yeah,
How do you deal with that?
that's what I'd like to.
that's the challenge, and this is the challenge that I have fought the bulk of my adult life, and still do, and still do. I got to be honest. This is not a monster. This is not a boogeyman that I have exercised from my life by any stretch. But the first thing you want to do is just narrow it down, right? Creative people have got 1,000 different ideas, and they're constantly coming up with new ones and new altercations and new images and new ways to do it. And the first thing you want to do is you want to get rid of anything that is there because you think you should do it. I once had a friend, he was a therapist actually, who said we can should all over ourselves. There's no time for it. All the shoulds, right? I should be doing this and I should just get rid of them all. Those are other people's dreams. Let those people do their dreams, right? If you do their dreams, you're robbing them. Just so get rid of all of those. So get rid of all the shoulds. You want to get rid of anything that doesn't feel authentic. Like when you sit for even a few seconds with it and you go, is this real for me? I mean, I can want to live on the space station on Mars. I can want that all I want, but it doesn't feel real. It just doesn't. And I'm not saying that, I mean, at some point, someone had a dream about walking on the moon, right? And got there, right? And so you got to weigh those things. Is it real, right? I'm a 51-year-old moderately fit dude. I would love to be in the Olympics. I think that would be so cool. That doesn't feel real to me. It just doesn't feel real, right? It's not in my game plan. So get rid of all the things that are there for other people. Get rid of all the things that are just really not authentic and real. You want to clear out anything that isn't a passion, right? This will usually bring you down to a handful of stuff. Sometimes it'll bring you down to one, which is awesome. Usually it'll bring you down to a handful of stuff. What do you do from here? And I learned a technique a while ago, and it was actually about setting our priorities. So it wasn't necessarily about creative projects, it was about priorities. It can be very, very difficult to sort out which is our top priority, which is the one thing we should be doing. But it is often easier to get rid of one. So I was actually doing this exercise for the first time on priorities, right? So I had all of the things that were important to me in my life. So there was my kids, there was my health, there was my teaching, my writing, and my speaking. Those were the five at the end, right? Those are the ones that were really important to me, right? And for me, the first one was actually quite easy. My kids go above everything else. Don't tell them that; they'll get arrogant, but it's true, right? Um, but it was that number two spot, right? That number two spot, especially around work, right? Is it teaching, writing, or speaking? And those are two, and not mutually exclusive. I can do all three of those. Those can actually support each other, right? Writing and speaking and teaching can actually be very supportive of each other. But I needed to focus, which was a problem of mine. And the suggestion was that rather than choose which one was most important, play this game. Imagine that you had to give up one forever.
Ooh.
And this is a fantasy time, right? That forever doesn't exist in goals, right? Because things change. But you have to take one off the list. As of right now, you are no longer ever allowed to do. And often it's easier to drop one off the bottom of the list and then drop another one off until you're down to one, right? That can be really useful. One of the other techniques is to see if any of them are really close, right? There are these 5 things to do, but I could do that one in 2 weeks, which will probably turn into 4. But that one's actually quite close, right? Whereas that one's an 8-year goal. And that, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
start to see if one of them is actually just really close, right? I've got all the resources to do that. That one I'm starting from scratch on, right? And if they're both equal, then choose the one that's the easiest, right? Take the path of least resistance on those things, right? Quite often when we start looking at things, we can find that 2 goals will work together and form sort of an uber goal, a bigger goal that can sort of overpower everything else. That can be really useful when it happens. Um, and at the end, if you're down to 3 or 4 things and you really can't choose, I want to be a graphic artist, I love animation, and I want to do layout, right? And you just can't decide. They're all equal in terms of availability. Your skill sets are equal. You're set up for all of them. Then pick one out of a hat, throw a dart at a wall, because one of the things that creative people do, they will either sit between those 3 or 4 things and do nothing. And then you end up at some, and I'm not knocking Joe jobs, we've all done them, right? You end up at some horrible job. I worked 5 years at an insurance company because I couldn't decide which way to go. There's a whole story there, and I'll tell you that one if you want in a minute. We start moving in one direction, and the minute we run into a problem, and there is always a problem, that's a promise. You will run into a problem. Something will fall apart, something will not, someone will let you down, the thing you need can't be there. You will run into a problem, guaranteed promise. And if you're not firmly set, then you run into a problem and you go, oh, there was that other one. And then you spend years, and I've done this too, years not getting minor steps. And you do, if I love the metaphor of sailing, right? Ships and, getting from one place on a map to another. And you put hundreds and hundreds of leagues under your keel, right? You do hundreds of miles and you feel like you've done a whole lot of work and you feel like, but you haven't stayed in the same direction, right? Of course you didn't get anywhere. You're wandering in circles at great speed with huge energy, with an amazing amount of personal and financial resources thrown into the pot. And you feel really validated, but some part of your brain knows you gave up on every single one when it got tough. And it will. That's a promise. It will get tough. There will be a problem on everything. So choose and then stick. Stick to it. Stick to it till it's done.
I like that. I feel like specifically this audience is going to get a lot out of that because listening to that, I was like, hot damn. That, like,
Yeah.
dropping things off the list in particular, like, what they call it, like, killing your darlings or whatever. Like,
Right.
you love these things, but which one could you live without?
Yeah. Do you know the reference on Killing Your Darlings?
I
Do you know where that actually comes from?
I
No.
did at one point. I don't now.
Yeah, it was one of those old movie stars. I think it was Betty Davis, but don't quote me on that. It was one of those big old diva movie stars. And this young man had written a script for her, and she sent it back to him with red marks all over it, like cut this, cut this, cut this. She couldn't write, but she knew what made a good movie. Huge chunks of it, and this character needs to go, and that whole scene is irrelevant. And he came back to her and said, "You're not a writer." And she said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "But you." these, you don't understand. These are like my babies. These are like my children. What do I, and what are you asking me to do with them? And she looked at him and she said, murder them. And it sounds, you know what I mean? It sounds rough, but, and you can't do eight things at once. You can't. You can do eight things, but you do them one at a time, right? And exploring an area. I mean, people think that, and the whole idea of, giving up on something, realizing that something doesn't have any substance to it and giving up are different, right? We often explore a subject for a little while and go, nope, this really doesn't have any way. And that's, and sometimes we move forward and then give up, right? There's a difference. There's a real difference. I mean, one of my favorites, and you quoted him earlier, was Disney, right? Disney explored hundreds of stories, hundreds, and made 18, 20 movies. I should know that. I teach the animation history class. I should know how many. But
I was gonna
you know what I
say,
mean? Huge. I could Google it right now and sound really smart. But he personally, if you're talking about animated features, he personally made, a couple of dozen, but explored hundreds, right? Quitting and realizing that a story isn't ready to go or a project isn't ready to go. This is different. And there's a lot of wisdom in knowing which you're dealing with, right? Have you run into a problem, or have you run into this has nowhere to go? And that's about wisdom and just experience.
well, dang, that is man, Finn, drop the mic. That was
You've
fantastic.
got your mic on that cool little stand. You can't drop it.
Yeah, you keep that
Well,
up there.
yeah, I'm
You'll
not
have
gonna
to set
drop
it
it
back up
for
again.
financial reasons.
Just add on to
Because
that.
it's 2015.
Just add on to
I don't
that a
know why
little
I
bit.
said
Hmm?
When Rob mentioned drawing out of a hat, this is more short-term goal kind of idea, but I tend to find like if somebody I know is like I could do this, or this, like let's say six things, I will grab because I always carry my freaking Dungeons and Dragons dice with me. I will take my six-sided dice out, place it on the counter, and say number which ones you want to choose from and roll it because regardless I know I'm going to get an answer out of them. If let's say they roll a 5 and that was draw for today, either they draw or they go, you know what, actually I'm going to go work on this because they
yes.
already knew they just needed a choice that wasn't it to push
Yeah.
them in that direction.
Yeah. And that's also true. Sometimes we take a single step in a direction and go, "Oh no," and then we get clear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
But we don't know that sitting in our chair. We get up, we start to move, and then often we know we're in the wrong direction, which is awesome, right? Knowing something is the wrong direction is so powerful and so important. Um, I was going to tell a story, and now I can't remember what it was. I should make notes.
Oh,
There you
you
go.
were going to tell a story about you being in the insurance?
Oh, yes, that wasn't it. But this is here. Okay, so
Well, I
here
tried.
is so this is a how much time we got? Okay, I'll tell this short version.
All
My
right.
last day of class it was the last week of class in my drama program, music and drama program, right? And a lot of people had gone, a lot of people had skipped off. All the marks were in. It was done, right? 3 or 4 of us came into class, maybe 5. And the head of the music department, it was her class, a woman by the name of Christina James, and she looked down and she went, "Well, I'm not teaching 4 of you, not at this point." And then she went, "Take out a sheet of paper." So we all dutifully got our sheets of paper, and she goes, "Write down your goal, write down your dream, because clarity counts. Write down where you want to be, and don't get stupid on me. Something realistic. Realistically, where do you want to be in 5 years?" I don't remember what I wrote down. We all wrote down something. She said, "Give them to me." And we gave them to her. And she ripped them into little pieces and threw them in the garbage and said, "A realistic dream isn't a dream. Where do you really want to be in 5 years? Take out another sheet of paper and write that down." I don't remember what I wrote on my first sheet of paper, but on the second sheet of paper, I wrote that I wanted to be directing at the Stratford Festival. This was completely unrealistic. 3 years, 5 years out of a music theater program. Um, I got to tell you, 5 years later, I was not on the directorial team at the Stratford Festival. It took 6 years. 6 years after I graduated, I was an apprentice director at the Stratford Festival. While I was there, I realized I was going to be unemployed in 4 months. I was going to see my recent wife every other weekend if I was lucky and if I can get a ride back to Toronto. And looking back, I realized I was also very frightened. I felt over my head. I don't think I was, but I felt a little lost. And I realized that I didn't want to be a freelance director anymore. What I didn't do was sit down and figure out where I wanted to be in 5 years. 5 years after that, I was on the phones at an insurance company. And one day, I got called into my supervisor's office to congratulate me because my 5 year anniversary was coming up. And she gave me this little package and she said, "You can choose a 5 year gift from anywhere in this catalog, but look at, I know they're not much, but look at what comes at 10 years. I thought,
Nope, I'm done.
I don't know what to do, right? At this point, I didn't know what to do. And I don't know why, but I thought about this exercise. So I excused myself, went downstairs with a piece of paper, and I wrote down that in 5 years, I wanted to see one of my plays on stage, and I wanted to be working in animation again. When life was good, I had done some courses at a big studio in downtown Toronto and had loved it. Then the studio closed down and that contract sort of disappeared, didn't turn into anything. I got really clear on that new 5 year goal. I wanted to be working in animation, and I wanted to see one of my plays on stage. That night, I started writing my first play, my second play. And I put my resume together and I sent it out to every studio and every school in the GTA who worked in animation. Heard nothing back. Continued to write, followed up a week later, followed up 2 weeks later, I figured after 4, I become a stalker. No one even returned my calls. Kept working, pulled out The Illusion of Life, started reading Chuck Amok, all the books that I had gathered back in the day when I was, doing well. And then one day, out of the blue, I came home from my job at the insurance company, totally exhausted and hating my work. And there was a message on my answering machine that a friend of mine a friend of hers had just started teaching acting and animation at one of the schools, and she was having a really rough time with it. And could I give her some pointers? And I gave her your phone number. I hope that's okay. Click. And my first thought was, she's got my job. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give her some half-hearted pointer or two, and then I'm going to wait about 6 weeks, and then I'm going to send my resume in again. Because just when they're really sick of her, they're going to hear from me. That lasted about 4 minutes, maybe 5. The next day, I get this call from a woman named Joanne Wilkinson. And I sat on the phone with her for 4.5 hours and told her everything I knew. Everything. How to approach animation, how live action is different from animation. She was an live action acting teacher. Just seriously, everything I knew. She had it all. And at the end of about 4.5 hours, she said, "I don't know how to thank you for this." And I said, "Here's how you thank me. Because I knew, and she got it. She was smart and creative. She got it. And I knew that I knew she was going to be great. I knew she was going to be great. And I said, here's what you do. When you're ready to move on, before you move on, you call me again so you can go in with my resume. That's all I want, right? When you're ready to move on, put me up for the job when you're done. I got a call the next day from the dean of the animation department from a school I'm still teaching at saying, "Joanne Wilkinson has been in here and she just quit on the condition we hire you." So my big advice around goals is know where you want to go even if you have to throw a dart at a board, get clear, write it down. The clearer you can get, the better. Start working towards it and give. I don't know how things would have worked differently if I had screwed her over. It might have worked for me, but I feel a whole lot better having not screwed her over, right? I don't pretend I'm perfect. I have done some things I'm not proud of in my life, but I've never screwed anyone over for a job, ever. I get my work because I work hard and I care about what I do, and I'm good at it. And if I'm not good, I get good. So, I mean, at the end, that's what goals are for me. Get clear on where you want to go. I can't promise that if you're crystal clear, you're going to get there. There are people who believe that. There are people who absolutely believe if you are crystal clear, if you can visualize it, it is yours. It just is, right? That's how it works. And I don't believe that, which may be why I haven't won the lottery yet. But I do know that you got to have a dream, because if you don't have a dream, how are you going to make a dream come true? That's the quote that I was trying to remember earlier.
Nailed.
I know that if you don't know where you want to get to, you're going to end up at an insurance company. And I'm not knocking that. I work with people who loved that job. It was the wrong fit for me, right? And if you land at an insurance company and you love it, more power. Do it, right? But it was a wrong fit for me. I got clear. I started working towards it, even though nobody got back. I didn't get a response. I called. I sent follow-up letters. I sent follow-up emails. There wasn't internet for me to be linking and blogging around and things. But everything I could do, I got no response, and continued to read through The Illusion of Life, and continued to read Chuck-a-Muck, and went back and found Of Mice and Men, and just started reading up everything I could, getting myself prepped, going and looking at the old animations that I hadn't looked at in 8 years, and reminding myself about what made them great. And suddenly there it was, out of the blue. Someone who I hadn't spoken to in years remembered my phone number, connected me to someone else. I treated her well, and I've been teaching at the colleges for 12 years now and love it. So
That
there you go.
is that is dang inspiring, sir.
That's my story. I'm
Rob,
sticking to it.
thank you so much. I apologize to everybody anytime that I was talking instead of Rob.
You talk good. You talk real good.
Thank you, sir.
He has that radio announcer voice. Nick
Who does?
in
Nick?
my opinion. Yeah.
Me?
Nick does. You
He
sound
does.
good.
You should listen to the last episode with Lloyd on it. His voice is like at least 7 octaves lower than mine. It's
Ooh, I like those
Today,
radio
ladies
voices.
and gentlemen.
Very nice.
yeah, it's oh man, I wish he could read me bedtime stories every night. Oh man, he should start a podcast reading bedtime stories. I'm gonna pitch that to him.
That would be so cool.
Would that not be sweet?
That would be so cool. But then that's another great idea, right? There you
Oh,
go.
that's true.
And that might be the one. I had this great idea. Yesterday, I was looking at friends of mine are doing great singers, they're starting to get a lot of success doing kids' birthday parties. And they love it, right? They're doing work for kids, and anyway, they're really, really great little. And I suddenly thought, why aren't there stand-up comedians for kids' birthday? Like, why aren't there children's stand-up comedians? It's like, that would be so cool. I would love to do that. I spend 15 minutes going, oh, you know what? And I could tell a joke about that, and that would be cool. It'd be totally family-oriented. And then I thought, no, you've got 5 projects you're working on now.
At what point did you realize you were thinking of clowns?
Well, no, because clowns are different. Okay, here's my confession.
Clowns are scary.
I probably shouldn't say this. I paid my way through college as a clown.
Really?
I don't tell a whole lot of people that. Yeah.
You
I
just
know
Now
that,
all 23 people that are subscribed to this channel know.
It's out there, Rob.
clowns and stand-up comedians are different. They're very different.
I feel like spending buying things with clown money would be much more satisfying than buying it with normal people money.
Yes. Because you can print it in your basement.
Clown, and they'll accept it.
Well,
If you show up as a clown, then they have to, as per
they have to.
Canadian
It's
law.
or they get a pie in the face.
Well, there is some
Oh,
detective right now who's finally found the clown terror. Rob Corbett. There you go. Rob Corbett, life
Oh,
coach and clown terror.
there you go. It's true. Okay, I have one final question.
Yes.
Wilco,
Yes.
my question is for Bachelor number one, Wilco.
Okay.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Ploeg.
We do this every time.
Pluk?
Ploeg. It's
Ploeg?
it's it's like a foreign G. It's
I always say plu, and then I go
yeah.
Ploeg.
It's basically it. It's
Ploeg.
ploeg. It's ooh. There's like I don't know how to ooh. I don't know how to tell people ooh.
ploeg.
It's ploeg.
You don't.
I'm not good at explaining my name.
You have
It's
to
just
practice like
you
somebody
say
jumping out of your mouth.
Ploeg.
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 Palooka.
Ploeg.
Palooka. Palooka, I understand.
Speaking of which,
Except I need a cigar when I'm saying palooka.
Wilco, if people want to see your work, they go to
www.wilcoploeg.com. WILCOPLOEG.com.
and Rob, if people want to see more of your wisdom, which today it was an hour long. Generally, you condense your nuggets of wisdom into under a minute,
And
which
they are
is,
lovely.
I aim for a
is
minute.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Where can we find all this stuff?
Generally, robtalks.com with a dash between Rob and Talks because I am so very dashing.
Nailed it.
That was
Rob
great.
Talks is taken, but it's not actually a website. And then they wanted like $2,000 for it. So it's like, you know what? I'll stick a dash in there. So I am
And
Rob.
done.
And
Do you have anything else you want to rep before we?
No.
All right.
I'm on Twitter. Like for 3 days now. I got to figure that out.
Ooh.
Woo.
What's your Twitter handle?
I'm at Rob Corbett 6. Apparently there are 5 more of me out there somewhere. That's 6, not sex.
All right, Rob.
Yeah.
You remember, right?
That's your YouTube channel. I understand. Is Rob Corbett sex?
That's the one
Okay.
we don't talk about.
Sorry.
Now we gotta talk.
All right.
I did get the link to that.
I'm
Can you put in
gonna
that bathroom again?
say what?
I'm gonna get myself fired.
If you want to help save the world with me, I have decided to stop shaving my face because one, I'm lazy, and two, to raise money for Movember,
Yes.
which
Huge.
is raising money for prostate cancer research, testicular cancer research, and mental health research.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can do that by going to mobro.co/Nick Mabry. There's an intense internal competition in the studio. Last time I checked, I was in 3rd place. I suspect I may be rising up with. That probably sounded awful on the mic.
It's not that
Rising up to overcome my valued peers and friends. I want to crush them.
bad. Yes.
Yes.
If you
As you should.
if you want me to help crush very kind and nice people, mobro.co/Nick Mabry.
Yes. And if I may,
And
if I
check
may,
out.
testicle-
Yeah, sorry.
I'm a huge fan of testicle cancer research. Gentlemen, check your nuts. I'm serious. Do it. Do it. And if you don't want to do it, get someone else to.
That might be
Yes.
awkward. I'm sure you'll find somebody. There's people.
Serious. Do it.
It is very important.
It is very important.
If you want to see more of the podcast, go on to facebook.com/IMakeArtHireMe. We're on iTunes, but the link is a bunch of numbers, so I will just post that. That's it. Thanks, guys.
I love what you're doing, Nick. I think this is brilliant.
I'm
serious.
so happy to have you on. This is fantastic.
This
And
was awesome.
Wilco, man, thanks for doing that run.
2 minutes. Just so you know, every time that you saw me do this, that was me burping and trying not to burp into the microphone.
I actually assumed you were burping when you did
Yeah,
that.
because I drank like a big glass of water to try and like calm everything down. It was like, oh boy, this was a mistake.
I thought you were being all coy.
Nope. It's the hot guys.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for
Goodbye.
listening. So long. Go to facebook.com/IMakeArtHireMe to get our YouTube, iTunes, and all the other links that are too long to pronounce in just a few seconds.